This video is sponsored by Proton VPN. So let's say hypothetically, you are not that big of a fan of having your wireless provider giving warrantless surveillance access to the National Security Agency where they can spy on everything you're doing on your home network. I'm not too big of a fan of that myself. Let's say hypothetically you have a particular show you want to watch, but it's not available in the United States, Canada, or wherever else you live, and you want to trick Netflix or wherever else that you're actually somewhere else. That would be pretty nice, so that way you can actually watch what you want to watch. Let's say you're a streamer and you want to live stream, but you're worried about accidentally leaking your IP address on stream or something like that. A VPN is good for all of these scenarios. It provides you protection and it provides you an extra layer of security on your network, which protects you from any shady third parties looking in. Looking at this lovely comparison chart, you can clearly see that Proton's the only one on this list that isn't owned by the exact same company and isn't in one of the 14 Eyes countries. Now, you may not know about the 14 Eyes countries. Let me go ahead and show you. So the 14 Eyes countries includes a ton of these countries, and they're all an alliance which is entirely involved around monitoring internet activity and sharing intelligence. Not exactly the thing you want if you're looking in a VPN. So you can see that they also provide extra stuff like an ad blocker, malware blocker, and a VPN accelerator. They don't have logs. They don't keep logs at all. And you can get 64% off using Proton VPN. The link is in the description. Check them out if you want a solid VPN. I can highly recommend them. They are definitely solid, and I appreciate Proton for sponsoring today's video. I made a video titled, I made a tool to debloat Windows in 2 clicks, and that video got 1.7 million views and 118,000 likes just at the time of recording this, and it's still going up. This video blew up and this tool blew up. I was looking at statistics of the website recently, and the last 30 days, 44,000 visits, which is insane. News articles were written about it, where I was even asked to comment and stuff like that. Someone massive in the security research and cybersecurity space, John Hammond, even made a video talking about my tool, where he had done a deep analysis and looking into it to see if it was actually malicious or not. Glad he came to the conclusion that it wasn't. Probably the biggest and coolest of them all, though, is Some Ordinary Gamers even made a video where he had showcased Talon. But here's the thing, and the whole point of this video and what I've done. So he made a video talking about Talon, and he actually was the first one he showcased, and he showcased some problems with trying to download Talon, though. When trying to download it, it says that it's malicious and you have to click keep and go through a bunch of hurdles just to keep it. And then once you do that, trying to run Talon can be a little confusing. He did disable Windows Defender and then ran it, but then Talon still messed up during installation and it's still fucked up. During his video, visibly the install screen just disappears and it gets picked up as a detection and the whole system just kind of dies, which really sucks because a video as popular as this just showcased Talon failing, and that was not easy to watch. You see, funny thing about Windows Defender is even if you turn off real-time protection, even if you do disable it, oftentimes it still runs and it still protects you, and if you try to run Talon, it will actually still snipe it. And so ultimately the system he showcased as a debloated system really was untouched and not much happened. So like you can even see, I believe he shows the start menu at one point and it's just not, nothing happened to the system. I did make a comment talking about it and I'm glad it got some good reception, and I did discuss all of this. This video and his demonstration really highlights a problem that I've even seen quite a few users of Talon have. And it's that, simply put, it's janky and it's just not as reliable. And that's the problem. Now, I actually know why it's not as reliable, and it's because Talon was actually originally designed based off a personal script that I had wrote just for myself. So if you look back at the very beginning of Talon's development cycle, and you can see this absolute bare bones basic first ever version of Talon that was super janky and barely functioned, and it just sucked. And it's because
I pretty much had just this script written for myself that I slightly adapted and then built a UI off of, and I pretty much called it a day, and I released that as a tool. And then a bunch of people started using it. It got flooded, super popular, all that shit. It wasn't designed for the kind of mass public use it was getting. Reliability was a problem. So, probably the biggest problem I saw users having was that it often left them without a web browser. So, we were using a thing called WinGit for browser installation. And WinGit is created by Microsoft. And so obviously we thought, oh, it must be reliable then. WinGit is extremely unreliable and not very good. So half the time it would not function and people would just be left without a browser installation. And also, for some reason, many people's ISPs, their internet service providers, like AT&T, T-Mobile, whoever your provider is, Verizon, they often block code.ravendevteam.org, which is the code subdomain of our website, which is where essential scripts that Talon relies on are hosted on. So that makes it pretty tricky for anyone, and with the way Talon was designed is it would silently fail. So it would look like it's installing perfectly fine, but in the background it's just silently failing, and it would just skip the step if it failed. So it often left half debloated systems or just not debloated at all. And sometimes when it would get stuck on steps, it would just infinitely install and never end. Simply put, this is just unreliable. This is just not tolerable for a project of this scale. I already knew this, but I didn't realize just how bad until I saw Muda's video. And after I saw that, I just said, you know what? Fuck it. It's bad. Here's what we're going to do. You know what? We're working on a total rewrite of Talon, an overhaul. If you've been paying attention, then you've seen all this message all over the place. Talon 2.0 overhaul. By the time this video is up, by the time this video is posted, if you go to debloat.win and you go download Talon, it will be a totally rewritten, brand new version of Talon that is built from the ground up to be the kind of tool that it is used as now, where it's actually a properly done debloater and it's significantly more reliable, significantly more stable. Unfortunately, we haven't really been able to solve the problem of antiviruses detecting Talon. And I'll try to give as simple of an explanation as possible here, but you can happily skip it if you don't really care. But for the people who are curious why Talon gets detected as malware so much, it's very simple. So Talon is an exe file where it's actually a Noitka executable file. So we use a service called Noitka. We use a special kind of compiler called Noitka. And what it does, because all of our code is written in a programming language called Python. So what Noitka does is it takes Python and it converts it to C code, which is another programming language, just called the letter C. Now, C is faster than Python as far as like how fast it is at processing and stuff, which obviously performance is really important. Python is well known to be a pretty slow language. So if we can convert our Python code to C, then that'll make it much faster. And Noitka allows us to turn our Python code, the code that you just see here, and it allows us to turn it into a singular exe file that you can just download and run. This exe file, though, isn't purely code, though. This exe file contains a bunch of embedded files inside of it. And this includes stuff like images, config scripts, stuff like that, and the true exe file that actually runs. Now, when you run this exe, what it does is it just takes this bundle of shit and unpacks it into a temporary folder. And this is called the one file method, which is the term that Noitka likes to use, the one file method. So what it does is it dumps all of the files, it extracts all of these files into a temp folder, and then it executes the real exe file. And then all the files are actually there. So this method allows us to keep it as a singular exe file, which obviously is good rather than having to download a ton of files. And obviously we don't want you to have to install Talon in that kind of way. We want you to be able to just download and run it and be done. So having it as a portable singular exe file is nice, plus being able to convert it to C code to make it faster, it's a really good deal. Now, because of this kind of unpacking behavior with embedded files and stuff, this is commonly flagged by antivirus as malicious behavior. Now, not to mention, Noitka can be abused and has been abused by some malicious actors in the past to distribute malware. So, because of that, obviously, many antiviruses just outright flag Noitka as the problem, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Pretty much the reason why Talon is detected as malicious, not to mention the kind of stuff that it's doing to your system, because Talon, what it's doing quite a bit of stuff. It's making changes to the Windows registry. It's running PowerShell scripts. It's uninstalling a ton of software on your system and making heavy system changes and stuff, which obviously a lot of malware does. So whenever an antivirus looks at Talon and analyzes it and looks at the kind of behavior it has, and obviously an antivirus doesn't understand context. So in the context of a debloater, this is perfectly fine and safe and everything's fine. We're doing it for a legitimate reason. But an antivirus doesn't understand that context. It's just looking at the file and seeing this kind of behavior, and it knows that malware does this kind of stuff. So it's like, oh, shut it down, you know? Which obviously I can't really blame them, but it just kind of sucks. So with all of that in mind, we still haven't resolved the issue of Talon getting detected by antiviruses. But if you follow what I'm about to show you, I will show you the easiest, pain-free, simplest way to install Talon. So I have a freshly installed Windows 11 virtual machine here. So whenever you go to install Talon, what you're going to do is open up Microsoft Edge. After that, you're going to go to debloat.win. Now, remember the thing I said about the ISPs blocking the websites and stuff? My ISP blocks debloat.win. That's kind of part of the problem here too, is that many people were mentioning me and saying like, hey, the website's offline. It's not offline. It's just that the website's unavailable for you because your ISP is blocking it. Now, there's two things you can do. One, you can call up your ISP and you can ask them to unblock it, which would help us tremendously. And I really would appreciate it if you did do that, if this is the case for you. Number two, you could also just use a VPN. If you use a VPN to download and during the install of Talon, that will make sure that you can access all the resources and whatnot. So because I'm in a virtual machine and because of the way networking stuff works with my current setup, I just drag and drop the file into the virtual machine. So when you go to the website and you download it, here's the exe file. Now, what you need to do is you need to go to Defender, and what you need to do is you need to go to Virus and Threat Protection. You need to go to Manage Settings under Virus and Threat Protection right here. And then you need to go to Exclusions. And once you go to Exclusions, make sure that your C drive is added as an exclusion. If you go to Folder, and then this PC, then C. Select Folder, there you go. Now, the reason why you do this is because when you just disable real-time protection, Windows Defender likes to still act. But when you whitelist your entire C drive, just don't protect anything for a little bit. It ensures that Windows Defender doesn't mess with anything. And that will just give you the total peace of mind that it won't fuck with anything. Now, after you do that, you just double click on Talon, start it up. It'll ask for admin privileges, say sure. Now, I will confess, the current version of Talon, the Talon rewrite, it does take quite a few seconds to get to the screen, and that's because of a new feature. So Talon, and you're seeing this in real time right now, I'm not editing any of it, there you go. So Talon, it took that long to start up, for me at least. It may take faster for you, it depends on your hardware, of course. It depends on how good your computer is. So Talon now, when you first run it, very first thing it's going to do is check if the exclusion is made, and it's going to run a couple of checks to make sure that it actually can connect to our to our servers, and that it actually can download the scripts that it needs and stuff. It makes those checks first to make sure that you won't have any problems with Talon when actually trying to install it. Because, you know, obviously, instead of silently failing, we wanted it to properly check everything before then. So now you get to the selection screen that you guys are very familiar with by now, I'm sure, and you can pick whatever browser you want. I'm going to select Brave here, and this used to be an optional Raven software offering where it would be like, hey, do you want additional Raven software? And we would let you download some extra software that we also make. Just to make things simpler, we instead replaced it with this little message where if you use our Talon and you like it, consider donating. And you can just say, okay, I'll consider it. And there you go. One thing you'll notice that's immediately different is the background is transparent, or well, translucent. You see it's an overlay now, because Talon originally during installing would just be a pure black screen, so you didn't know what was happening in the background. We did that design choice on purpose because obviously less tech savvy users don't really care what's going on in the background, and if they see a bunch of terminals coming up and all that stuff, it can be kind of scary. So, because obviously they can get concerned. I get it. So just to make things simple, we made it pure black. A lot of people didn't like that, so here was our solution. You can now see what's actually going on in the background as Talon works. And also we added status text, because before it would just be a spinning wheel and it wouldn't tell you what it was up to. So if it did get stuck, you didn't have any idea of what was going on. That was an obvious problem with Talon. So now it actually updates you and tells you how many steps in it's at, and it tells you exactly what it's doing, and you can watch it do what it's doing in real time. And we mentioned, please don't use your keyboard and mouse. You can watch, but just try not to touch anything, of course. And you can see right here, it's installing Brave. So as far as the browser installations go, in order to make them reliable, what we did is instead of using WinGit, we instead decided to use a thing called Chocolatey. So it's essentially the exact same thing as WinGit, where it's like a package manager, and you don't really need to know what that is, but it's just a much better version of what Windows is offering and a much more reliable version. And so you can see here it's downloading Brave right there. You can watch it work as it goes, which is pretty neat. I feel like this actually wouldn't be too bad for non-tech savvy users, because they get to watch the debloating process happen. They get to watch all this cool stuff fly by and do what it's doing, and they just get to see it. I think it's kind of cool. This is something that I have been trying to fix, and I've been trying to get in touch with someone who's more familiar with the CTT WinUtil project, but I swear to God, I haven't gotten an answer yet. So what this application that opened in the background, this white application, is called CTT WinUtil, and it's used by Talon to help debloat Windows. It's one of the crucial steps in debloating Windows, because it's this other really popular tool. Because Talon, essentially what it is we just took existing tools and a couple of in-house scripts that we made, and we combined it all together, and we just automate the process for you. So rather than you having to manually run all this stuff and click all the buttons and stuff, because you would have to click tweaks here, and then you have to click all the checkboxes, then manually run it on stuff. Instead of doing all that, it automates it all for you. That's the whole idea. When automating CTT WinUtil, which is this tool, for some reason, it has this error message right here. And I feel like this is going to be a big problem for this newest version of Talon, is people are going to run it, and because of this translucent background, they're going to see this and then think that something is wrong. It's not. This error is supposed to happen, and in fact, it's very funny, because if you click OK, click X on it or anything, it cancels the rest of the debloating process. It cancels it, and it doesn't continue. I don't know either. If someone who kind of has a way in with the CTT WinUtil developers and can kind of help move this message along for me, if you can fix that, that would be great, because I'm pretty sure that's a bug. I've tried fixing this on my end by tweaking the config file we pass and stuff. I don't know how the fuck to fix it. Okay, please help if any of you know how. But moving on, you can see, and I think this is kind of part of what's cool about being able to see it, because you can see it actively removing a bunch of the bloat. So it's saying attempt to remove, and it's just running down the list of a ton of different software that can be pre-installed in Windows, and it's just removing all of it, which I love. I think is very cool. And you just get to watch it work right now. See, look at it make all these changes. It's really cool to watch. Now you can see, oh, and this is another thing. I will actually discuss that later as far as Windows update policies go, because we did something really cool in my opinion. This hurts my soul. Since we're looking at updates, I might as well talk about updates and mention what I was talking about earlier with what we do with updates now. So a big concern was after Talon makes the changes that it does, what happens if a Windows update happens? Will it just add back all the bloat? Will it undo the changes that Talon makes? And so here was the solution that we came up with. Windows handles updates so stupidly. Let me explain it to you. It's so stupid. So we need an update. We made an update policy changer script, and then you'll see we also have a pro version. So essentially the way Windows works is with Windows Home, it handles updates differently than every other version of Windows. I don't get it either. So with Windows Home, if you run Talon on a Windows Home system, what it will do is it will set your device to only receive security updates. Only security updates, skip out all the feature bloat updates for 365 days. One whole year. Past that, you will get those updates again. We wish we could do something more about that, but just due to the way Windows Home is designed, the way its updates are designed, we can't go beyond that. So we can block out those updates for a year. Now, if you run Talon on Windows Pro, on Enterprise, Education, anything else, it will apply the Pro script, which will allow you to, which actually permanently does the change. So if you use Windows Pro or Enterprise when installing Talon, it will apply this version of the script where the change lasts permanently beyond just 1 year. So you will only ever receive security updates, not bloat feature updates, forever. It'll just stick with security updates only. Can you believe that after my whole explanation, it's still updating? All right, finally. So let me show you the end result of Talon after running it on your system. What Windows will look like. Oh man, look at that. Look at that fucking title screen right there. Look at that start menu. Look at that taskbar. Oh, it's so clean. Oh man, we couldn't. Oh. God, I love Hyper-V. I love Hyper-V so much. It does that every fucking time. It does that every fucking time. So, just look at this damn system, though. We couldn't get rid of Get Started for some reason. This stupid-ass application. I don't know why. By many people's request, we kept Paint. And many also wanted us to keep Phone Link. So Phone Link is still here. And Windows Terminal, I kind of wanted it removed, but I know a lot of people like it, so I kept it. And just look at how debloated this system is. Now, this isn't an accurate representation of how actually good the Talon debloater is, but I will show you the processes. Look at those processes, only 95, 98. And if you look at just background processes, it's just 32. Now, the reason why this isn't the most accurate is because, let's say hypothetically you install Talon to a laptop, or you have a graphics card or something like that, your drivers will install extra apps and software that run in the background, obviously, because that's necessary. So obviously that'll contribute to more background processes and more stuff like that. But on this virtual machine here with the baseline stuff here, you can see just 32 background processes and 94 regular total processes, which is very nice, and obviously very low memory usage compared to a regular Windows system. Oh, and of course you get this sick ass background. The log file. So this is for more of you, this is for a bit of you more tech savvy users, because I feel like the less tech savvy won't really understand this, but the logs are much nicer now, because they also include information like what's running it, the specific module that's running, the process ID, the thread name, and it even has levels, so like debug, info, error, all of that. And you can see this, it just generally just vast improvement to the logs, much nicer. While we're on the topic of, for the more tech savvy users, let me show you what the code base looks like before the overhaul. So if I actually just go to browse files here, you can see what it looked like before. You go into components, you see these components, then you click debloat windows, and the entirety of the debloating process is smashed into this one gargantuan Python file. And just the way it was done was just messy and just ugly and really hard to maintain. You see, with the way we redesigned Talon and the way we rewrote Talon, it is extremely modular. So look at this. Utility scripts, all individual scripts. So one script is responsible for the logging capabilities. One script is responsible for Windows Defender checking. One script is solely responsible for handling threads of the debloating stuff. One is single-handedly responsible for executing PowerShell, stuff like that. Utility functions, but split into individual modules. Each screen is a module. And then the components that the screens rely on are individual modules. And then you can see debloat components, which use the utility scripts to get done what they need to get done. It's just generally, it's so much cleaner and so much easier to maintain now. Adding future updates, adding future additions, adding fixes to problems, stuff like that is going to be much faster, much cleaner, much more efficient now than it used to be. That's about it. See ya.